Hello everyone and welcome to today's form building webinar. My name is Nick and I will be taking us through the builder today. Today we'll be talking about conditional formatting in a little more advanced way, just in terms of how to use that conditional functionality to make your forms flow a little bit better and only provide the necessary information to your patient that they will need to fill out. And as we go along, just as a reminder, if you do have any questions, please keep those on hand. I will be opening up that chat a little bit later, and I'll be more than happy to get those answered or go back over any information if necessary. But let's go ahead and jump right in. Today we'll be going down to the Packets and Forms page, and we'll be working off of our FormDr training packet. We'll click the three dots on the right side and click Edit Forms, which will take us into our builder, and we'll just work off of our Information tab first, and we'll just go straight to the builder by clicking Next Build. All right. Once we're in the builder, we can use the elements and formatting tools on the sidebar to make our form look a bit different or update any questions that are all necessary. But okay, we do have a few conditional questions here, or just one anyway, right here, our how did you hear about us question. We have 4 answer selections, and each one of these answer selections will have a different question being asked afterwards. And if we want to see that conditional information, we'll just need to click that Show Conditional Fields button. And you'll notice that the final option here in this list does not have any conditional information in it, so it will say drag and drop form elements here. That lets you know that that is empty. But we can see that the referring doctor is asking for the doctor's name, friend for the friend, and then the online search. Let's go ahead and go over to our style page for that live preview, and we can see that in action here. When we click the referring doctor, we're presented with that name, friend, and our search drop-down. If we select our final option, we are presented with no extra information because there's nothing hidden behind that answer selection. This will typically be how you see conditional formatting used, and this will be the most basic use of it, just presenting extra information after a question has been answered. This will prevent the patient from seeing any other fields that aren't related to them, and they don't necessarily need to fill that information out. It will only give them what is specific to the progression of their form. Now, when it comes to advanced use of the conditional formatting, you can get really creative with it. Let's go ahead and add another question up in this first area. So we'll go ahead and we'll just put this one into our column here, and we'll just make this a question about the patient's sex, right? So we'll title that, and we'll do male, female, other. All right. So what we'll do here is we are going to place another question asking for the same information, and so we're just going to duplicate that element. We'll duplicate it. We have another one with those same answer selections for us, and we're going to just click and drag this one down to our medical section. Okay. So now what we'll do is we're going to have this second question auto-populate based off of the selection of the one on top, and we'll be able to present different sets of information here. But first, we will add that conditional information. And we're going to make this a little bit easier on ourselves by placing all of this information into a group so that we can move it as one. So we'll place our group widget down. We'll drag those elements into that group widget. And when you're placing columns and information that is grouped into a single formatting tool, you'll just want to use those 3 dots that replace the orange pencil icon here. When I start to move it around, that middle dot will be essentially your cursor. So as soon as that middle dot crosses that line, it will be placed into that group. Same will go true for the repeating section. And then we can drag our drawing up there as well. And then we're going to also duplicate this information. So I'll select the group widget. I'll duplicate that information so that we have a second group. And then now I'll place this first group under the male answer. There we go. It can be a little bit tricky when you've got very large groups of information. And now for the second group, for the female choice, maybe we have a few extra questions that we need to ask. Oftentimes there will be questions for females only, and those will just be on the form for everybody, and you'll just have the male patient skip right over that. But let's go ahead and add just a few more questions here. We won't necessarily flesh them out, but we'll just pretend that they are. So we'll add a couple questions, and we'll add ourselves a section title as well. We won't have to put that section title. We'll just include those questions. Let's go ahead and move those up as well, just underneath that medication. All right. And so now what we can do is drag this information up. But first, let's go ahead and duplicate this again, because we'll want to give the other option just all of the available information, just in case it does pertain to them. All right, so we've duplicated that again, and now we will bring this up into our answer selection areas. And make sure that there we go. Hide that one. And now we'll drag this one into our other section. Okay, so now that we're all set with our conditional information, this will make the form look a lot cleaner just right off the bat. However, what we can do is have this question auto-populate based off of this selection. Now, this first question does not have any conditional information within, but that won't matter because when we auto-populate them, they will act as the same widget. So when this one is selected, this one will be selected as well, presenting any of that information. So let's go ahead and do that now. We can make this easier on ourselves by changing the short code here, but all that you're going to need to do to ensure that this will auto-populate is ensure that both elements have the same short code right here, as well as the same values for each of the selections. So the text of the answer selections does not have to be the same. It will just need to be the value for those selections and the short code here. So we'll just copy and paste our short code. You can change this if you want. Maybe you want to title this patient 6 instead, just to be easier for you to remember in case you want to auto-populate that onto another tab as well. But we'll go ahead and copy and paste that into our second option. And now we can go test that out. So let's go ahead and go back to the style page. And once we select the answer to our sex question, we'll be presented with the appropriate information for that person. We'll select female, we'll have our extra answers there. And when we select other, we'll have all of the available questions. All right, and this will hold true for the entire packet. So these will essentially be the same widgets. So if we had another one of these on our final tab of the form and somebody decided to click something different, it will go back and change those other questions as well. So we can see that this one is changing with this one and this one with that one. They are the same widget because they share that same shortcode. So let's go back to build and take this one step farther. Maybe there's an extra consent form that we would need if the patient were a minor. So again, we'll duplicate this entire question. And we'll update that shortcode. There we go. And except in this one, we'll add a parental consent. And we'll just simulate this as well, but we'll put our paragraph widget in there. Parental consent form. And then we'll just give it some text. Just to simulate. We'll make this a little bit bigger using our header styles. Okay, and then we can go ahead and add our signature in there as well. We'll title that parent guardian signature, if I can spell it correctly. There we go. All right, so we'll group this as well, like we did originally with all of our other information, just so we can have these two together, and we'll duplicate this twice. The reason that we're going to do that is that we're going to drag these two others into our other answer selection areas. So we'll first open up our other. We'll click and drag all of this information as a whole to the bottom of this section. There we go, there's one. And then we can show the female option answers, and we'll do the exact same thing. Bring that down to the bottom. Oh, one into the other. There we go. And just take your time when you're moving large groups of information. You will need to be patient with it at certain times, but you will be able to get that information in there. So now we have our parental consent forms. And now we're going to ask another question if the patient is a minor. So what we can do is include all of our demographic information into one single question here. And this will be really up to you. You can leave this information out if it won't matter if the patient is a minor, but maybe we can include another question into this. Oh, actually, we have 6. We'll go down to 3 wide. There we go. We'll just ask, is the patient a minor? There we go. Yes, the patient is under 18 years, or no. And then we can update this one, patient minor. Copy and paste that as well. Duplicate our question. Oh, actually, we won't need to. Okay. Let's do this differently. We'll get rid of this one. Delete. And we'll make this our parent question. We'll just leave the name, date of birth, and address out on their own, and we'll duplicate everything else in that group. Okay. And now we'll duplicate this information. We'll place the first one into the yes, the patient is a minor. We'll place the second one into the no, patient is an adult. And then we'll place our different sex questions with the adult and minor information. So this one would be our minor, as this one does not have the parental consents. So we'll place our top one in the no category, and our bottom one into the yes. And now we can get that same setup based on that one answer selection. Then the second option will determine which one or which further information they receive. We'll just need to ensure that those short codes are still good. Patient sex, and those values, true, false, option 3, and true, false, option 3. Let's test it out. Hit done to save that up. And now our form is much shorter looking, but it will have a lot of information within, just depending on how the patient decides to answer these questions. Is the patient a minor? Yes. Then they'll fill out their information, they'll select their sex, and be presented with all of the appropriate information and that consent form. We can test out each one of them as well, just to make sure that everything's showing for us. We have our 3 extra questions here for the female and the other, as well as those parental consents. If the patient is not a minor, these selections are still being made, just having removed that parental consent. That's because the sex questions do share that same shortcode, so it won't. Oh, I didn't set that one for the top because I had duplicated it. Anytime something is duplicated, it will generate a randomly generated new shortcode, so just do keep that in mind. This one is good. This one is good. No. See, there's our shortcode that's not correct. There we go. And now they're all connected. So you will just need to make sure that those are identical. There we go. So you can get really creative with the conditional functionality. You can go very deep with this as well, and multiple different branches or variations of the same form. I will be dependent on your creativity and until how far in you go when you lose your sanity. So, but you can go as deep as you want. There's no limit to the amount of nested questions you can use with conditional information. So you can really use this to format in certain ways, and you can essentially get 4 or more types of packets out of one if you have the patience and ability to add those up. So we could then duplicate this question or add another minor question as the top of one of our other tabs, and then have extra information presented there as well, depending on their answers on the first tab. So, maybe there's another parental consent or some questions that the parent would need to fill out here. Maybe we'll just go with a few other questions, parental questions. Let's do drop downs this time, just so we have that visual difference. And we'll just title them parent. Parent, parent, parent. 4 wide. There we go. And again, we'll use that group tool. Drag everything up and into that group, except for our parental questions, because we'll duplicate this first to get our second set, and then we'll add our parent questions at the bottom. Now we'll place another single select option at the top. Title it. And we'll just keep the title the same. And now we'll add both of our sets of information. First one will go into the no. Gotta be patient. There we go. And the second one into the yes. Make sure everything's included. Grab it right there. And scroll up and down until we find that sweet spot. There we are. All right. We'll just need to make sure that we update this shortcode as well. I think I titled the other one patient minor. It's made a selection, so that tells me that it has. We can go back and double check just in case. Patient minor. All right. So now on the first page, when the patient selects if they are a minor or not, on that last page, that will be selected as well, presenting those parental questions. If we decide to change this on this page, we'll remove those parental questions because they're not included if the patient is an adult, and that will be updated here on the first page as well. So just keep that in mind. Everything connected can be changed later in the form. So, but it can be very useful in terms of utilizing this conditional functionality to get a lot more out of your forms. All right. I do apologize. We're running a little short on time. I'm gonna go ahead and open up that chat. Time got away from me a little bit. But please feel free to get any questions in. If you do have them, more than happy to answer them. Okay, today we've used only single select options as our demonstration. The conditional functionality will be able to be done with multi-select options, drop-downs, single checkboxes, multi-checkboxes, and signatures. To activate the conditional functionality, or you will need to activate conditional functionality on the single checkbox and the signature. All of the other widgets will have that open space for you, and as long as it says drag and drop form elements here, that will let you know that you can place any of the widgets within. You can even have formatted sections in here as well, which we saw in our first one. We have full groups of information. So for the multi-select, single select, the drop-down widget, the multi-checkbox widget, and then when we get to the single checkbox widget, you'll just need to toggle on that conditional functionality. Once you've toggled that on, we'll get the conditional space. We can start placing our elements. The same will hold true for the signature field. You will need to toggle on that conditional functionality. However, you can then have additional information presented once a patient has signed that field. We can go test those single checkbox out and our signature widget, get our extra information here. So you could have a series of signature widgets that are all nested into one that kind of play out depending on what the patient is willing to sign, giving them more and more if they're continuing on down that path, but that will of course be up to you as you set that up. Just keep in mind that when you print out a blank PDF of your form, if you do choose to use in-office forms, that all conditional information will be presented. So in this case, if we were to print this form out, we would have all of the information. And let's go ahead and demonstrate that before we close up today, just so you can see what I'm talking about more clearly. We'll save our work. We'll test that public link just to make sure that those changes have been saved and published, which they have. And now to print a blank copy of your form, we'll just click those three dots again on the packet that we want to look at. We'll go to Settings and then Create PDF. That will be created, downloaded, but you can see here that all conditional information will be presented, which means that we will see multiple of the same questions, probably 4 variations because that's how we've set that up. So just do keep that in mind. It will make your printout much larger, but that will just be because, of course, on a paper form, there's really no way to present additional information based off of something that the patient has selected. So just very much keep that in mind while you're building out your forms if you are planning on using them in a PDF style. All right. It does not look like we have any questions today, so that will conclude today's form building webinar. And just as a reminder, we do host these webinars every Tuesday and Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific. We also host onboarding webinars every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific. And if you'd like to keep up with the schedule of those webinars, you can always do so by going to My Account, Support, and Search Guide. This will take you to our product guide, which will have many articles just going over how to use the product in different ways, just using your, managing your users, setting up the account, sending forms, setting up integrations, or building forms. And we'll have some imagery in there for you and some step-by-step instructions on how to get all of that done. So by the end of the article, you'll be all squared away. But if we come to the FormDr update section down here at the bottom right, this will have our webinar schedule over on the left, and you can always keep track of our recent major releases on the right. But we'll click on June, for instance. We'll then come down. We'll have our onboarding schedule up at the top. These onboardings won't change too much in terms of what we go over. However, the form building schedule will be changing from day to day, and we'll have descriptions of what we'll be going over in each one of those. If there is something that you're interested in joining, just click the title. It will take you directly to the sign up page for that day. And if there's something that you're interested in joining but you won't be able to be in attendance for, don't worry, we will be posting those videos after the fact as well. And once we have updated that and posted those, the title will change to Posted Click Here. You'll be able to click that. It will take you directly to our YouTube channel, where they will have some timestamps at the bottom of those videos as well. But ultimately, you'll be able to watch them at your own convenience. And just as a note, we do different themes for each month as well. February was adding and creating new forms. March was to go over each of the individual widgets in the builder. I definitely recommend the March series if you are just getting started in the builder, as this will be very helpful for you. April and May were about editing and updating existing forms. And of course, in the month of June, we are currently going over formatting and reformatting. But all right. That will do it for us today. Unfortunately, we have run short on time, but thank you very much for joining us today. Just as a reminder, or the last reminder, I should say, these are all free. So if you do have any coworkers or staff that would like to learn this information as well, please feel free to send them our way. We absolutely encourage everyone to join us as often as they like until they're comfortable with the product and beyond as well. But we very much appreciate you joining us today. Hope to see you all again very soon. Have a nice afternoon.